Hello and welcome to Monday's Granada Reports, live with the news across the northwest.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Here's what's lined up tonight.
A prison-bound parliamentarian shock in court as Cheshire MP Mike Amesbury is sent down for that punch. We're live in his constituency with the latest.
A vacuum of governance from the ward to board. The public inquiry into Lucy Letby's crimes returns to hear damning claims about the Countess of Chester Hospital.
Tributes paid to 3-year-old Lulu, the sweetest, kindest and most generous little girl. Police make an arrest over the van and tram crash which led to her death.
I want to be over. I just want it to stop.
Ukrainians in the northwest reflect on their hopes and fears on the 3rd anniversary of Russia's all-out invasion.
Cheering on their teacher, the school run takes on a new meaning at this Wirral primary school.
And our weather set to remain rather changeable over the next few days with sunny spells and scattered showers at times. I'll have all of the details later in the programme.
So please stay with us for all of that. We start, though, with the disgraced MP spending his first night in prison after being jailed for 10 weeks for punching a man in the street in Cheshire.
CCTV footage showed Mike Amesbury, who's represented Runcorn and Halsby for almost 8 years, hitting one of his constituents to the ground.
Amesbury was heard telling his victim, "You will never threaten your MP again." Today, a judge said locking him up immediately was, quote, necessary.
So is this career ending for the former Labour, now independent MP? Our reporter Anna Yosef is in his constituency tonight. Anna.
Well, Mike Amesbury's constituency office is located here in the old police station in Runcorn, somewhat ironic given this recent turn of events. But this town now has a convicted criminal for an MP. It's fair to say that Mike Amesbury and his legal team seemed blindsided by this custodial sentence. He had previously admitted punching a constituent, Paul Fellows, in the street in October of last year. The court heard Amesbury had been drinking before he arrived at a taxi rank in the early hours of the morning when Mr Fellows approached him to complain about a bridge closure in the town. Footage then shows Amesbury punching Mr Fellows to the head, knocking him to the ground, then following him onto the road and punching him again at least 5 times. He was then heard saying, quote, "You won't threaten your MP again, will you?" Now, Amesbury had initially told police that he'd acted in self-defence, but later withdrew that claim. Sentencing him to 10 weeks in prison, the judge said that an immediate custodial sentence was necessary as a punishment and a deterrent. This was the reaction from some of the constituents that we spoke to today.
It's an absolute disgrace. One of the worst places to get caught, early hours of the morning, outside here, battering somebody. He shouldn't resign, he should be kicked out, and that's it.
Well, to react the way he did, it would have been, I think, what any human would have done.
Other people get the same thing. You can't do what he did and not have some reaction from the public, and I think that it's the right decision.
Justice is served, actually. You know, he's a man of position and should be setting an example, really. So I do feel that, you know, 10 weeks, he'll probably serve 5, won't he? But hopefully he'll learn his lesson.
Anna, Amesbury's future as an MP remains under question tonight. His lawyers indicated he'll appeal the sentence.
That's right. MPs who receive a custodial sentence, even if it's suspended, automatically trigger a recall petition, which could result in a by-election if 10% of the constituents sign it. This will have to wait until the appeal process is over. Labour suspended Amesbury from the party shortly after the incident, so he has been sitting as an independent. They have said he won't be admitted back in and are calling for a by-election, saying his constituents deserve better after his completely unacceptable actions. The 55-year-old left court today in a prison van. Tonight, he won't be in the Houses of Parliament. He'll be in a prison cell.
OK, well, Anna in Runcorn, thank you very much indeed. Next, and we thought we'd heard all the evidence at the Thirlwall public inquiry into former nurse Lucy Letby, but today they heard from one final witness.
Dr. Susan Gilby is the former chief executive at the Countess of Chester Hospital. She got the job just weeks after Letby had been arrested.
Letby is serving 15 whole-life orders after she was convicted following 2 trials of murdering 7 infants and attempting to murder 7 more. Well, Mel Barham's followed today's hearing.
Well, Dr. Susan Gilby painted a picture today of a very troubled organisation. She said she thought she was coming into a high-performing trust, but it was soon clear that wasn't the case. There was, she said, a vacuum of governance from ward to board, with a troubling culture of people not feeling comfortable speaking up or reporting problems. She said that even before she took up her role, it was made clear to her that there was a problem with the paediatricians that she needed to deal with. She said the outgoing medical director had even told her she should refer them to the GMC.
They were very dismissive of the paediatricians, and on a number of occasions it was said to me that they were just looking for somebody to blame. And they just felt that the paediatricians were unable to accept that they weren't the best. And so when outcomes were poor, they were looking for somebody to blame.
Well, she told the inquiry that after Letby was arrested, she'd expected the executive team to be reeling, but instead she said there was a denial from those in charge. Tony Chambers, the chief exec, more concerned about a wrongful conviction.
He still believed, in spite of the arrest, that no deliberate harm had been caused. He kept repeating that there was no single cause found. And I said to him, well, it's not for you to find the cause. You have unexpected and unexplained collapses and deaths of patients, and that even one of those is a cause for concern. And he just was very focused on the worry that the paediatricians may have caused this nurse harm, and that his worry was a wrongful conviction.
Well, Dr. Gilby said she decided to meet up with one of the consultants and almost immediately realised, with her medical background, that something wasn't right.
I didn't get very far into the conversation before it became obvious to me as a clinician, never mind as an executive, that it was most unlikely that these were clinical explainable collapses. It didn't seem possible. And I think at one point I made an exclamation when he told me about a particular issue. And he said to me, "You've been here for 5 minutes. You get it. We've been trying to tell them for years."
Well, this, of course, very interesting, given what we've heard in the last few weeks, with that panel of medical experts giving a press conference with Letby's new legal team, where they put forward an alternative explanation for these deaths and collapses. Well, interestingly, Dr. Gilby comes to this inquiry having just won an employment tribunal herself after she accused the hospital's chairman of bullying and harassment and trying to oust her from her job. Dr. Gilby ended her evidence today by saying that at the conclusion of Letby's criminal trial, she had wanted to stand up to say the hospital had made mistakes, but she said there was a great deal of resistance to her doing that. Well, that was the last witness we will hear from this inquiry. Next month will be final statements before Lady Thirlwall's report is published in the autumn.
Mel Barham reporting there. 2 other stories making the headlines tonight, and a 3-year-old girl who died in a crash involving a van and tram in Manchester has been named as Lulu Parmesano. Lulu, who was from Burnley, was a pedestrian and died in hospital on Saturday morning. The driver of the van fled the scene. Police have arrested a 36-year-old man on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving. He remains in custody.
Greater Manchester's mental health teams have begun the first of 3 days of strike action. Unison members with the early intervention and psychosis teams have walked out over staffing levels and funding.
Transport for Greater Manchester has announced London-style tap and go payments on buses will launch next month. From the 23rd of March, passengers will no longer need to buy tickets on B network buses. Fares will automatically be capped, with prices depending on the number of zones in a journey.
Well, OK, a big day for Ukraine today, and services are taking place to mark the 3rd anniversary in the invasion of the country. A vigil will be held at Liverpool Parish Church this evening.
In just a moment, we'll be speaking to the journalist Maria Romanenko, who fled to the northwest. But first, Andy Bonner reports from Manchester, where many others came to escape the war.
A moment for reflection. At the Ukrainian Catholic Church in Salford, people gathered to remember and to look to the future.
3 years for the world to know. For us, the struggle is going for centuries, and since 2014, since Ukraine became independent. So it's a long struggle. But we feel positive. We feel hopeful.
What do you want to happen?
I want to be over. I just want it to stop.
For some, the anniversary is shrouded in bewilderment. Donald Trump's claim that Ukraine started the war has startled many here.
Anyone who's got any logic about them, they're saying they saw the troops going in, it was on the defensive, and to turn it around and say, oh, they're on the attack, it's just ludicrous.
The Ukrainian Cultural Centre in Cheetham Hill hosted a filmmaker who spent much of the 3 years on the front line documenting the war. The film is to show international viewers what Russian propaganda does, Denise Christoph told me. It's to see what 1% of Ukrainian life looks like right now.
We're trying to put the world, the information what for real going in Ukraine on the front line, and we're trying to get this information to other people.
It's really hard, I would say, to plan in this country, because you don't know what will be with your visas, and will the country allow you to stay here, or I want to come back to Ukraine, but when it will be safe.
This is a war that must end at some point. For those here whose loved ones remain in the country, will be watching an uncertain peace process with scrupulous eyes. Andy Bonner, ITV News, Manchester.
Well, today's been a day of painful memories for Ukrainian journalist Maria, who fled within hours of the Russian invasion and came here to the northwest.
Yeah, she was with her partner from Greater Manchester, just outside the capital, Kyiv, when the bombs started falling. Maria, thank you for coming in tonight. This is not the first landmark day you and we have spoken on, not the first anniversary. What on earth is going through your mind on the 3rd anniversary?
Of course, I love seeing you guys, and I love being here at ITV Granada, but every time we mark an anniversary, I hope that there won't be another one, but here we are 3 years later. But the thing is, I'm proud more than ever of being Ukrainian today, because Russia said it would take 3 days to take over Ukraine, and here we are 3 years later. And Ukraine is coping really well, is fighting and is defending the country really well with Europe's support, with European weapons. And Russia, as much as it pretends that things are going well for it, has not really gained anything in the last 2-3 years, because they've not made significant territorial gains. Their economy is failing. They have lost to injury or death nearly 1 million people now. And it had to rely on other countries like North Korea and China and use their troops, which have failed in Ukraine as well and had to withdraw. So I'm very proud of what Ukraine has achieved, and with Europe's support, we will keep going.
And there's the crucial question, Europe's support. All eyes are on Ukraine at the moment with President Trump's intervention. Has that been helpful or not?
It's been quite distressing, of course, having to comment, having to observe what has been going on in the US is completely surreal, I think, not just for Ukrainians, but for Europeans, for anyone who stands up for democracy, to see what's been happening over the last couple of weeks in the US. But I think for all the failings and for all the wrong things that have been fact-checked that Trump has said wrong, he is right in one thing, and that is that Europe must step up. And Europe must defend Ukraine and defend Europe, because it's not a Ukrainian Russian war, it's a European war. So it's very important that Europe provides all the weapons that Ukraine asks for, because Russia does not understand the language of democracy. Russia only understands the language of force and political isolation. So Trump is not really doing the peacekeeping that he's saying he is doing. He is escalating because he's empowering Russia, he's isolating Ukraine, and by empowering Russia, he's also empowering the US's #1 enemy, which is China. So it's only making the situation worse, because they encouraging Russia to take over not just more of Ukraine, but also take over Moldova and take over Georgia. And then they also talked about going further into NATO countries.
The UK has pledged support again today to Keir Starmer. Are you convinced the UK is doing enough?
I think the UK can do more. I think it's great what they've done. I think there have been some more definite, more firm messages, especially more recently. But it's just such a shame that it's taken, 3 years of the full-scale invasion, but 11 years of Russia's war in Ukraine in general. And before that, in 2008, Georgia was invaded and is still invaded by Russia. And before that, in late 1990s, we saw the war in Chechnya, where things very similar to what's been going on in Ukraine, with all the rapings and all the violence have been happening there. It's just, it's a bit too late, but obviously it's always better later than never.
So a very, very tough day for you, but you are talking very optimistically. Let's hope there is some movement. Thank you very much indeed for coming in tonight.
Thank you. You're watching Granada Reports, still to come on tonight's programme.
David's here with all the action from a busy weekend of sport.
And we've had some bright and sunny spells today, but we do have a few sharp showers pushing in later this evening. I'll have all of the details coming up shortly.
And here's Mary Nightingale with what's coming up on the ITV Evening News at 6:30.
Coming up, world leaders are at a special summit in Kyiv, promising more sanctions against Russia and more support for Ukraine. Today marks exactly 3 years since Russia invaded Ukraine, and much of the focus now is on what the White House will do next. Here, the Cheshire MP who hit a man complaining about a local bridge closure is jailed. And surprise wins at the SAG Awards. So what could that mean for the Oscars? Would you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
So, to the sport we promised you, and Liverpool are closing in on their 20th league title. Here's David.
Yeah, their fans may already be ready singing about winning the league, but Arna's thought, well, he's not taking anything for granted just yet. With 11 games to play, Liverpool have extended their lead to 11 points at the top of the Premier League.
Having a lead like this would be very comfortable, except for this one, because this league, every single game gives you a lot of challenge. They're really hard to be where they are now, and I hope and assume that they will keep doing.
Have advantage from Arsenal. It's a lot. How many games lost? The only team can lose it.
Now, Manchester United have confirmed they could make up to another 200 redundancies as part of plans to cut even more costs and return to profit. It comes on top of 250 jobs that went at the club last year.
The referee on field makes the decision. If it was absolutely clear and obvious that he should go to the screen, well, I didn't see that. They pulled his jersey. No, I'm trying not to get involved. I'm too old now to go and start fighting the world.
In this moment, every stadium is really difficult, especially ours, with our fans supporting all the time. So my goal is just to win the next game, to give some happiness to our fans, because they deserve it a lot.
To our winners in the Football League now, and sadly there weren't that many. In League One, Bolton Wanderers stay just outside the playoff places on goal difference after coming from behind yet again under new manager Stephen Schumacher to beat Leyton Orient 2-1 at home. Elsewhere, despite going down to 10 men, Blackpool won 3-1 against Crawley at Bloomfield Road. And in League Two, all our sides lost except for Crewe, who beat Barrow 3-0. That's their first win in 6 games and keeps them in 7th. Now, it's a big week for rugby league as the sport heads stateside. There's been a delayed departure, though, for Warrington Wolves' head coach Sam Burgess, who couldn't fly out to Las Vegas with his players because of a visa issue. He's confident the matter will be resolved so he can join up with his squad ahead of their landmark game with Wigan Warriors in 6. The Leopards are just behind them on points difference after running out 24-10 winners against Huddersfield. And finally to boxing, where Liverpool's Callum Smith has put himself in line for another shot at a world title in a hard-fought battle of the Brits. The former super middleweight champion beat Joshua Buatsi on points out in Saudi Arabia. The win sees him claim the WBO interim light heavyweight belt and moves him a step closer to becoming a two-weight world champion. Yes, well done to him. That was a hard-fought fight, that one, so well done to Callum.
Just a bit. Packed sports desk. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, David.
Thank you. We are staying with a sporting theme to tell you about a PE teacher from the Wirral who's taking on an extraordinary challenge.
Yes, Mr. Phil Haywood is running 10 kilometres. That's more than 6 miles barefoot every single day for a year.
Barefoot, you did hear that right. He's doing it in support of the Alzheimer's Society. Pupils from the school are backing him all the way, even joining him on one of his runs.
But they had their shoes on. Here's our reporter, Lucy Brobby.
A race with a purpose. Staff and pupils at St Michael's and All Angels School on the Wirral are rallying behind their PE teacher, Mr. Haywood, who's taken on an incredible challenge, running 10 kilometres every day for a year. This isn't the first time he's taken on a challenge like this, though. 5 years ago, he raised thousands for the charity Mind. Now he's pushing himself even further, running another 10k, but this time barefoot for the Alzheimer's Society.
Keep going, keep going.
I decided to take the challenge up. Obviously my granddad's been really poorly with this disease for the last 9 years, and in April it'll be his 90th birthday and it'll be 10 years he's been diagnosed. I did this challenge in lockdown, but with trainers on, and it made me think I love my granddad to pieces, and obviously seeing him deteriorate, it made me want to push myself a little bit more and see if I can do something to maybe help him and other people as well.
Pupils of all ages joined Mr. Haywood for his run, cheering him on every step of the way.
How did you find the challenge?
I found it challenging, but I can't believe how he does it. He's done it for 212 days and 10k. That's just hard.
To feel determined, because we obviously saw everyone in the school just running with him, and he did this in the ice and snow, which is more challenging.
He's not only raising money, he's leading a path to a new future to solve Alzheimer's.
Mr. Haywood has braved all weather conditions during this challenge: snow, ice and torrential rain, but teachers say he's remained more determined than ever.
He's just been so inspirational for the whole school community, really, and we wanted the children to be part of that and inspired by him as a hero, really.
Yeah, very much so. I think just the values of our school as well, the resilience, determination, he just is showing it. Every day barefoot for a year is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't have got this far to the challenge if I didn't have the backing of my colleagues. They've been unbelievable. The children design posters every other day. At lunchtime, high fives, keep going, Mr. Haywood. And knowing their backing and support and knowing how young they are and as a role model, that keeps me going.
For Mr. Haywood, every step and every run counts towards raising awareness and funds for vital research into dementia. Lucille Brobby, ITV News, Wirral.
I tell you, if I was wearing a hat, I would tip it to him. How has he got any skin left on his feet?
Oh, I don't want to think about it.
No.
Must have very tough toes.
Oh, yeah.
Well done, Mr. Haywood. Now let's hope the weather's kind for him running barefoot in the future. Here's Louise with a forecast.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello there, good evening. We've had a few bright and sunny spells around today, but we do have a few sharp showers pushing through this evening. Over the next couple of days, it's a rather changeable outlook, scattered showers at times with some sunny spells in between. But we could see some cool, chilly nights coming our way over the next couple of days. Taking a look at the pressure sequence, low pressure is firmly in control as we move through towards the middle part of the week. We have a number of scatter showers feeding in and some blustery winds at times, but high pressure will start to move in from the southwest, settling things down through Thursday and Friday. Back to this evening, a few scattered sharp showers feeding in from the west. Some of those will move through quite quickly, becoming drier and clearer as we head towards dawn. Temperatures overnight dipping to lows of 4 to 6 degrees Celsius, but in the coldest spots they could dip as low as 2 or 3 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow gets off to a cool and chilly start. A number of scattered showers will feed in through the first part of the morning, brightening up for a time. Some patchy cloud developing later in the day. Further showers into the afternoon, but winds much lighter than today, coming from a northwesterly direction. It's taken the edge off the temperature with highs of 8 or 9 degrees Celsius. Looking ahead towards Wednesday then, it's a rather mixed day. Scattered showers and some sunny, blustery spells of rain at times. Temperatures around 8 degrees Celsius for this time of year, so around average. Taking a look ahead then towards Thursday and Friday, as that high pressure starts to extend in, things will settle down with some bright and sunny conditions coming our way. Temperatures in and around what we would expect for this time of year, but quite cool and chilly in the overnight period. That's the very latest. Bye-bye for now.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Yeah, it's still winter, that's the bottom line. Thanks, Louise. That's the way the Northwest looks this Monday evening. Our next update's after news at 10.
Yes, thank you very much for your company tonight. And tomorrow we hear from the 88-year-old mum who takes her daughter, who's disabled, to every Bolton game, and she wants that to continue.
Had a good result at the weekend too. Have a nice night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.